My name is Olivia Carter. The first drop of wine hit the paper at exactly 4:15 in the afternoon. My sister, Vanessa Carter, didn't spill it. She poured it. She stood over my 6-year-old son, Ethan, tilting her glass of red wine with slow, deliberate precision. Ethan had spent 3 days painting that watercolor landscape of the lake outside our parents' cabin. It was supposed to be a gift for his grandfather. Now the dark red wine spread across the blue sky of the painting, soaking the paper, curling the edges, and destroying everything he had worked so hard to create. Vanessa smiled. He needs to learn that the world doesn't care about his little drawings, she said. It's taking up space on the table. Besides, Ethan needs to toughen up. She finished her drink, placed the empty glass directly on top of the ruined painting, and looked around the room, waiting for everyone to laugh. My uncle, Robert, laughed first. That's a $50 lesson, kid. Toughen up or get eaten. Soon everyone joined in. Some laughed. Some smiled. My mother forced an awkward chuckle. My cousins looked amused. Only Ethan remained completely still. His tiny hands trembled over the table. He stared at the destroyed painting without saying a single word. He didn't cry. He simply tried to disappear. He wasn't looking for comfort. He was hoping that if he stayed quiet enough, everyone would stop looking at him. And suddenly, I saw myself. For 29 years I had done exactly the same thing. Stay quiet. Stay convenient. Never upset anyone. Always protect the peace. Now I was watching my own son learn the exact same lesson. He was learning that his pain didn't matter. He was learning that people who loved him could laugh while humiliating him. He was learning to become me. That realization hit harder than anything I had ever experienced. If I stayed silent, he would carry this pain for the rest of his life. He would grow into an adult who apologized simply for existing. I slowly looked toward my father, Richard. He sat quietly at the head of the table. His face showed almost nothing. But I knew him. His knuckles had turned white around his fork. The muscles in his jaw tightened. Something inside him was breaking. I stood up. The chair scraped loudly across the wooden floor. The laughter stopped. I walked around the table and stood directly between Vanessa and Ethan. My body blocked her view of my son. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to fix the situation. I wasn't trying to make everyone comfortable. I simply looked straight into Vanessa's eyes. You enjoyed that, I said calmly. You enjoyed watching a 6-year-old create something. And you enjoyed destroying it. Vanessa rolled her eyes as she poured herself another glass. Oh, Olivia. Stop being so dramatic. It's only paper. I actually did him a favor. Maybe now he'll learn to do something useful. Useful? I repeated quietly. The room became silent. Before anyone could speak, my mother, Linda, rushed toward the table. She grabbed a handful of napkins and immediately started wiping the wine from the wood. She never looked at Ethan. She never asked if he was okay. Oh, Vanessa. It was just an accident, she said nervously. We'll buy Ethan another coloring book. Let's not ruin dinner. It's Labor Day. We're family. At that moment, I finally understood. My mother wasn't protecting the family. She was protecting the illusion of a happy family. She always sacrificed the quiet people, so the loud ones wouldn't explode. Vanessa leaned back confidently. Exactly, she said. Ethan is too soft. Olivia babies him. I'm teaching him how the real world works. That was the final thread. My father slowly stood up. He walked toward the fireplace where an old wooden sign hung on the wall. It read, "Family is forever." He stared at it for several seconds. Then he turned toward my mother. You wiped the table, he said quietly. You never checked on your grandson. Linda froze. I'm just trying to keep the peace. There is no peace, Richard interrupted. There has only been silence. And I'm done paying for it. He looked down at his left hand. Slowly. He twisted off the wedding ring he had worn for 40 years. It came free with effort. He walked back to the table. Without saying another word. He dropped the ring directly onto Ethan's ruined painting. The ring landed in the pool of red wine with a dull thud. I am done protecting your version of peace, he said. And I am done protecting you. Richard walked toward the corner of the cabin and picked up an old black leather notebook. He carried it back to the table and placed it down with a heavy thud. I've been a structural engineer for 40 years, he said calmly. My job has always been finding cracks before buildings collapse. So I started doing the same thing with this family. He slowly opened the notebook. Every page was filled with dates, bank transfers, receipts, handwritten notes, and financial records. I started keeping this 3 years ago. Vanessa folded her arms and forced a laugh. What is this supposed to be? An audit? Richard didn't react. 3 years ago, you asked me for $5,000. You said it was for your new business. You promised you'd pay me back. Vanessa shrugged. So what? Families help each other. Richard turned another page. You never paid back a single dollar. But that wasn't why I kept records. He looked toward my mother. I tracked every withdrawal from our savings. Every emergency. Every excuse. Every transfer. My mother slowly stepped backward. Richard. Please. Not here. He ignored her. I hired a forensic accountant. The room fell silent. He traced every dollar. Richard placed several printed bank statements across the table. Each one highlighted with yellow notes. Every transaction had been connected. Every payment had been documented. For years, he said. Our retirement account kept shrinking. I believed we were helping family. I was wrong. My mother started crying. Richard continued. You didn't steal from me once. You stole from me hundreds of times. Vanessa's confidence slowly disappeared. Richard flipped another page. This payment. $12,000. You claimed it was a business investment. Another page. $8,000. Medical emergency. Another. $20,000. Debt consolidation. He closed the notebook halfway. Every single story was a lie. My mother's breathing became faster. Please stop. Richard looked directly at her. No. Everyone deserves to know the truth. He opened another section. This time. A police report appeared. Vanessa's face instantly lost its color. Richard held the report in his hands. 3 years ago. You were driving home after a party. You were drunk. You crashed into a parked vehicle. Then. You hit a 19-year-old woman crossing the street. The room froze. Vanessa couldn't speak. You never stopped. You drove away. I felt my entire body go numb. My mother burst into tears. Richard continued. You told me it was only a parking accident. You convinced me to release $174,000. You said lawyers needed to settle insurance claims. You lied. He placed another folder on the table. It wasn't insurance. It was hush money. Lawyers. Private settlements. Vehicle repairs. Everything was hidden. My Uncle Robert lowered his head. Nobody laughed anymore. Richard looked at Vanessa. You weren't building a career. We were paying to bury your crime. Vanessa finally spoke. It was an accident. Richard answered immediately. Leaving the scene was not. He looked toward my mother. And helping her hide it was not an accident either. My mother collapsed into a chair. She covered her face with both hands. Richard slowly closed the notebook. For decades, our family had protected one lie after another. Tonight, every lie was finally standing in the open. Vanessa forced herself to stand tall. She straightened her jacket and laughed nervously. So what? It was an accident. Mom helped me because that's what mothers do. You always loved Olivia more. Richard looked at her with complete calm. There was no anger left in his eyes. Only disappointment. You've spent your entire life believing someone else would always rescue you. He reached into the back of the notebook and removed another document. He placed it beside the ruined painting. This cabin belongs to me. It has always belonged to me. Your mother's name has never been on the deed. Everyone stared at the document. It will be listed for sale tomorrow morning. The proceeds will recover what was stolen from our retirement. My mother burst into tears. Richard. Please. Where are we supposed to go? He answered quietly. I don't know. Perhaps you can stay with the daughter you've sacrificed everything for. Then he turned toward Vanessa. And one more thing. 10 minutes ago, while you were busy humiliating my grandson, I contacted my attorney. Our joint accounts have been frozen. The remaining transfers are now under investigation. Every account connected to those transactions has been locked. Vanessa quickly grabbed her phone. Her fingers trembled as she opened her banking app. She refreshed the screen. Again. And again. Every balance showed the same message. Account frozen. Her credit cards no longer worked. Her business account had been suspended. Her access to the money was gone. The confidence disappeared from her face. For the first time, she looked frightened. Richard slowly walked toward the front door. Outside, heavy rain poured across the driveway. He opened the door. Cold wind rushed into the cabin. You have 1 hour to leave. Nobody moved. Nobody argued. The room had become completely silent. Vanessa finally looked at me. Her eyes filled with tears. Olivia. Please. You're my sister. Tell Dad he's making a mistake. I looked at her. I looked at Ethan's ruined painting. I remembered every holiday. Every insult. Every moment I stayed silent just to keep the peace. Then I looked at my son. He was watching me. Learning from me. Waiting to see what I would do. I smiled gently. You should leave before the storm gets worse. Vanessa lowered her head. For the first time in her life. No one came to rescue her. 6 months later. Life looked completely different. Richard had moved into a small apartment near the city park. It wasn't large. It wasn't luxurious. But it was peaceful. There were no arguments. No fear. No pretending. One afternoon I watched Richard helping Ethan build a wooden frame for his newest painting. Measure twice, Richard said with a smile. Strong foundations protect everything built inside them. Ethan smiled proudly. He wasn't afraid to make mistakes anymore. When he accidentally spilled a little glue, he simply cleaned it up. He didn't freeze. He didn't apologize. He knew nobody was going to humiliate him. My mother occasionally mailed long letters blaming everyone else for what had happened. I never answered. Vanessa eventually lost nearly everything. Without the money that had always protected her. She had to rebuild her life from the beginning. For the first time. She faced the consequences of her own choices. As I watched my son laugh freely, I finally understood something. Sometimes, saving your child means breaking the cycle that once broke you. Our family was never destroyed by the truth. It had been destroyed by years of silence. The truth simply gave us the chance to start again. My name is Olivia Carter. And the day my father chose truth over silence was the day our real family finally began.